Hi guys, I'm here with your last social and emotional learning strategy for at home. I've done a couple of these the past couple weeks. This one is the second last one. Unfortunately, with it being the last week of school, I'm probably not going to get to the last one because they only post every week, but I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about this week. So this week's skill, social emotional learning skill, is personal responsibility. I'm going to read the little blurb above that I usually do and then just talk a little bit more about it, and then we can get into the strategy that they suggest using with your child to try to incorporate learning how to have personal responsibility. So it says, what is personal responsibility? Nearly 30 years ago, the United States Department of Labor released a landmark study, the Secretary's Commission on Achieving Necessary Skills report, that defined the skills necessary for successful employment. So that was a mouthful. So just to make it a little more simple, pretty much 30 years ago, the United States Department of Labor had a report that outlined the skills that are necessary to be a successful employee or a successful worker. One of those 12 skills that they identified was responsibility. To be successful in life as well as in the workplace, our children need a strong sense of personal responsibility, which we define as an individual's tendency to be careful and reliable in their actions. We all want our children to achieve great things, and as Winston Churchill said, the price of greatness is responsibility. Here are some suggestions to help your child to build this critical skill set. So just to talk a little bit more about that, personal responsibility, or having responsibility over yourself and your life, is being able to be careful and be reliable in your actions. We also know taking responsibility is owning up to your actions, right? And just really taking control of what is good for you and setting a standard to be the best version of yourself and take control of the things that are going on in your life. Personal responsibility or responsibility in general is one that as a school counselor can get really tricky to find activities to explain. It's one of those that it's really helpful to know simple strategies or simple things to do in the moment to have a conversation or inspire or encourage responsibility. And that's kind of what I see with this week's activity. It's not as much as a let's sit down and do this project or this activity to help us learn personal responsibility. It's just kind of like in the moment when this happens, we suggest you do this to promote personal responsibility. So I'm going to read through that and then we can talk a little bit more about it. So this is the strategy for elementary students, and it's called encourage before you correct. So it says, parents are busy people with all our responsibilities. It is tempting to just go ahead and correct our child's schoolwork rather than taking the time to encourage them to persevere, try again, and find the right answer on their own, or at least with minimal guidance from us. But think of the long-term consequences of this correct first approach. Likely all of us has had a coworker who did shoddy work and relied on others like us to review and correct their work. These individuals may lack personal responsibility and take advantage of others. That certainly isn't what we want our children to become. So rather than correcting their work, encourage your child to keep trying. Be positive and supportive. If your child becomes frustrated, give them gentle guidance, but don't solve the problem for them. Encourage before you correct. They will feel proud and more confident if they learn how to solve it themselves. So again, this isn't an activity that you're going to sit down and do, and I know it's also tricky because school just ended and we're not really doing schoolwork at home unless you're in summer school. But even just remember this for in the future, or even if there's just a simple activity you're doing for fun and they're having a difficult time with it, instead of doing it for them, try to encourage them to keep trying, to stop and think how they can do it better or what they can try instead, and persevere through it and take responsibility of the task at hand and not just let somebody else do it for them. I really connect with just the part that says that all of us has had a coworker who relied on others to review or correct their work. Definitely not at NCS, because I know we're all responsible and we try really hard to be responsible when it comes to our work. But I would be lying if I said I haven't come across people in my life or even have friends that I can even see, or I know that in the past when they were in school, their parents always did their homework for them, or pretty much just when there was a mistake made, they just fixed and corrected it for them. And now when it comes to being in the real world and being an employee for someone, they really struggle to be able to do things independently and take responsibility over their tasks or their work. And I know that at NCS, we all want all of our children to grow up to be responsible and independent adults or young adults. So I think this is a great way to start at a young age, teaching personal responsibility, so that when they are older, they can be successful employees or just successful in their life in general, being able to take responsibility over their tasks and their actions and their work. So that is the little piece of advice or the little strategy to use at home when trying to promote personal responsibility as a social and emotional skill. As always, there's a little section underneath for strategies on how to use this with middle school students, high school students, preschool children, and infants and toddlers. I was even shocked to see that there was one for infants and toddlers, because you wouldn't think that at that young of an age there would be strategies, but it's important that, to remind ourselves and to remember that we can start very, very small things really early on. And then by the time, our children get to elementary, middle, or high school, they're like ahead of the game on how to be a responsible student, be a responsible person. So I hope you guys enjoy. Like I said, I know it might be hard to incorporate this in currently because it's the end of the school year, but just remember for next year, if you're doing summer school or whenever you get the opportunity, if your child needs help or they got something wrong, instead of just doing it for them right away, try to encourage them to persevere and try something new or work a little bit harder to correct whatever mistake they made or to get through whatever assignment they're doing. I hope you guys enjoy this. As always, the PDF that explains everything I just read and more is linked with this video on the post where you probably found this video. So you can look over it again, read through it, save it. You can even save it so that when we are back in school, you can remember, oh yeah, I can now use this personal responsibility skill as my child's doing their homework or their schoolwork at home. So I hope you guys enjoy. Have a great summer. Stay safe and enjoy yourselves. I can't wait to be able to see you guys hopefully at the end of August. Bye.